I never have a plan B because it detracts from your plan A. And I love that because I used to have a plan A, B, C, D, and then any shiny object that came in between. So I really, when I heard that, it just made sense because I feel as women, we're so good at lots and lots of things. And we want to do everything, and we want to do it all at once. And I think a lot of us just kind of lack patience. And we just want it to happen, and it's not happening, so we go on to the next thing. And then that's not happening, so we go on to the next thing. And we can do all of it. I mean, I just went to the National Achievers Conference, and I think it's Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. He said, if you want anything done, give it to a busy mom, because women we can work ourselves to death. So I'm just gonna tell you a little story about how my story got started. I waited tables at the airport, and I was a beauty school dropout. I went when I was 19, and my dad told me that I was too intelligent to be a hairstylist, which I am finding more and more that stereotype, which I'm changing. So he said, April, you're really smart, you should go to college. And so I dropped out of beauty school, and I enrolled at Utah State. I was getting my degree in psychology. Then I had some tragic events happen, and I had to drop out of school, and I had to earn a lot of money really quick. So I got a job at the airport. And while I was at the airport, I got moved up to bartending and cocktail waitressing. I was 23, making $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And my sister was getting her master's degree from NYU, making less than me. So I thought I was doing pretty good, and I lived at home and I had no bills, so I just traveled the world. And I kind of got addicted to the money, and I got very, very comfortable. I got very in my comfort zone. And the reason I loved waiting tables is I got to meet people from all over the world. And it was kind of slow one night, and I was talking to this guy, and he had really nice Italian shoes. That's why I was like, oh, that guy has really nice shoes. And he was like, don't take this wrong, April. I don't know you. I just only been talking to you 10 minutes. But I don't really feel like you belong here. I feel there's more to you that you're not doing. You're not living your purpose. And he's like, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying that's what I think. It really stuck with me. And then I read, I think it was probably Tony Robbins, because I'm a little obsessed with Tony Robbins, that you are a product of the top 5 people that you hang out with. So I started looking at my life and the people I hung out with, and there's nothing wrong with waiting tables. I did it for a long time. It got me through college. I made lots of money. And you can travel all over the world, do it, and you connect with people. But I knew that the lifestyle that I was living I was lacking joy, and I was not reaching my full potential at all. And I always kind of felt like I didn't fit in there, but I just couldn't get out of it. It's hard to go backwards sometimes when you're already so comfortable and you're making so much money and you just kind of don't know what you don't know. So I started looking around and started asking questions of, what do I want my life to look like? I had no idea. I just kind of got stuck, and I started spinning my wheels, and I had no idea what I wanted. I wanted lots of things, but I didn't know which one to pursue. So when it comes to creating the life of our dreams, I think the one thing we can all really try to do is get clarity. And if we don't know where we're going, we just kind of end up somewhere, and it happens by chance and circumstance, and life happens to us. So I started asking myself the question every day, what do I want? What is the life of my dreams look like? I'm not actually really motivated by money. I'm motivated by experiences. I love to travel. I love to buy people things. Me and my whole family just went to Italy. My little sister's here. And it was awesome to take my 71-year-old parents who have never traveled before, and I love that. That is my why, because my mom is the sweetest, hardest working person in the world. And she just never dared dream for herself because she always dreamed for her kids. So I think it's okay for us to be a little selfish, because if our cup is empty, we can't fill other people's cups. And as women and mothers and wives and friends, we are constant givers. And if we are always giving away our energy, we have none for ourselves, for our dreams. So I was working at the airport, had this conversation with this guy, and then I just started to be open to whatever. I was just open to whatever. I started meditating every day and just setting the intention. What does the life of my dreams look like? And then one of the ladies I worked with asked me, she's like, didn't you go to beauty school 5 years ago or something? Can you do my daughter's hair for her wedding? I was like, oh yeah, I can do updos. Like I always was really good at updos. That was my jam. And so I did her daughter's hair for her wedding, and she paid me $75. And I did it in an hour. And I was like, dang, I just made $75 in an hour. I'd have to work like a 4-hour shift to make that much money. And, you know, it was so much more fun. So then I kind of started thinking about it. I'm like, you know, I really did love doing hair. And I always wanted to work with women. And so I got my degree in psychology, and I specialized in body image issues for women, which if you have gone to a hairstylist or been in the beauty industry, it can seem very shallow, but really your hairstylist is your therapist, and I'm sure all of you know that. I know way too much about some people that I just was like, I just barely met you. Like, now I know your whole life, but that's awesome. We're gonna be close fast. So I found out that actually the airport pays for your college, which I didn't even know was an option. And so I went to Salt Lake Community College, and I got my degree. And then I started assisting at Salon KG, which is a really high-end salon in Salt Lake City. And I mean, the chances of getting hired there, he had not hired anyone in 5 years. And this girl that I worked with, this is how the universe, God, whatever you believe in, works. Like, she told me, April, you have to apply because I'm quitting because I'm going on maternity leave, and they have not had an opening in 5 years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just got out of beauty school. I don't know anything about anything. I went to Salt Lake Community College. Like, I can halfway do a bob, okay. So I was like, okay, that's fine. He's gonna hire me. So I go in for my interview, and he is like this tall. Okay, I'm 6 feet tall, and he is from Japan, and he is a stern guy. But he loved me. I told him I would dust all the top shelves for him because I could tell they hadn't been dusted forever. Because everyone was like really short. That I was like, I can dust all your top shelves, and I can do towels, and I'm really efficient. And he's like, all right, you're hired. We'll try you out for a couple months. We'll see. And that changed my life. Working there was a place I never even dreamed that I could fit into or that I could be. I actually was a super tomboy in high school. I did track and choir and color guard, all sorts of nerdy things. And I never wore makeup, and I never did my hair. And all my friends that got all ready all the time, I thought they were like very vain. You know, I'm like, oh, I have natural beauty, but really I was just lazy. So I was like, I don't need to do this stuff. It's fine. So working at this like super high-end salon, everybody was so edgy and wore high heels, and they're all a size 2. It really kind of, I mean, I stood out. I was like, who's that tall redhead in the back? Because I normally have red hair. It changes all the time. But I was like, working there just really got me to find myself, because it was either sink or swim. I can go to work every day and feel bad about myself, or I can just prove myself to myself it doesn't matter what environment you're in. You always take yourself and your energy wherever you go, and we can't change the world until we change ourselves. So I really realized that I was lacking self-esteem, and I needed to work on it, or I was not going to be able to work at the salon. So I started the inner work, and it was hard. I mean, I did Landmark, and I did like all of it, Tony, like Date with Destiny. I went to Brendan Burchard, and I was always constantly like reading books and writing in my journal and doing affirmations. And at some point, you just have to be like, know that you know enough, and you have to start doing it. You know, you can go to seminars. I went to seminars for like 10 years. And then I went to this one seminar, and they're like, why are you still coming to seminars? Why aren't you doing the shit that you know you're supposed to be doing? And I was like, oh my gosh, like on the front row, like, he's talking to me. Okay, I'm gonna do it. So then I remembered the Will Smith quote, and I was like, I am totally living my Plan B life. I was still working at the airport because I did not have enough, I was not making enough money. It takes a long time to build your clientele. And so I had to get leverage on myself. That's one thing that I really learned that has worked for me always. We always are scared to make, if it's not scary, it's not exciting. I mean, if it's not scary, it's in your comfort zone, and it's like, oh yeah, I could take this other really great paying job that has benefits that's almost exactly like the one that I'm doing. That's not very scary, and that's not gonna change the world or yourself or anything about your life. So if you keep doing what you've always done, you're gonna keep getting what you've always got, right? So I knew I had to be drastic. I had to burn the boats, as Tony Robbins says. I love that. If you want to take the island, you go to the island, and you burn all your boats, because the only way you're getting off that island is you take their boats, because you're taking the island. It gives you no excuse. You have to do it. So I knew that as long as I was working at the airport, making all this comfortable income, I was never going to be the stylist that I wanted to be. So I had to quit. So I went from making $60,000 to making $9,000 my first year. And I lived on my own because I could not live at home with my lovely parents that I love so much. But I don't even know how I did it. Sometimes you just know that you spend as much money as you make. But somehow I lived on $9,000 on my own in Salt Lake, living in Sugar House. And then I built up a very successful clientele. I traveled, I went and apprenticed at Vidal Sassoon, and I thought, this is it, I'm doing it. This is like my life, I'm living the dream. Then I started getting really comfortable again. Like 8 years had passed, I'm like, oh, I got this, I know how to do this haircut, like I'm booked solid. And then I realized there was no growth happening. Like one thing about life is if you're not growing, you're dying. So it happens, for me, it seems to be every 7 years. So I was like, okay, I guess, because I'd worked at the airport 7 years, and then I worked at the salon 7 years. So that's what I mean with patience. Sometimes life is happening one step at a time. Another thing Will Smith said is you don't just look to build a wall or to build a castle. You just get a brick. You put your stuff on the brick, and you place it the most perfect brick that you can possibly place it, and you make that brick amazing. The next day, you build another brick, and then the next day, another brick. And then after time, you kind of look and you're like, holy crap, I have a wall. Like you totally have an entire wall and you don't even know how it happened. The journey seems so fast. I mean, we're already almost to Christmas. I feel like this year just like flew past. So once you get in alignment with what you want, things start to show up and work out. So once I started the inquiry of, I don't think I'm gonna work at the salon forever. I'm kind of done growing. Then little things started popping in. Little people started coming into my life. Little, that seminar that I went to that I apparently wasn't supposed to go to was like, oh, I heard that. Like, it really started to just kind of sink in that I noticed that whenever I became resourceful, and that things would show up in my life. So none of us are not reaching our dreams or creating the life of our dreams due to lack of resources. It's lack of resourcefulness. So sometimes you just have to call yourself out and be honest with yourself. When people say, I've tried everything. Well, what did you try? Well, I tried that one thing. It's like, with marketing on Facebook or anything like that. It's like, I've done it. I've done a Facebook ad. It didn't work. Well, you did one Facebook ad one time, and it didn't work. So probably you need to change it, see what worked, change it, see what worked, and you have to keep readjusting. It's work. It's hard work. Like life, you don't create the life of your dreams by just like floating on a boat and being like, oh, there's my island and I'm gonna go live on it and it's gonna be perfect. Like you have to row and you have to build a boat and you have to do all sorts of crap to get to your mountain. And then as soon as you reach the top of your mountain, there's a downhill. Like that's just life. Like there'll be an uphill and then a downhill and then an uphill and a downhill. Because otherwise we wouldn't appreciate it. If we always lived on top and saw that amazing view without the hard work getting up there, it wouldn't even be worthwhile, and life is too short to not feel. We're supposed to feel fear. We're supposed to feel sad. We're supposed to feel happy. We can't just be like numb going through life because then that's just boring. You get used to it. So I had to quit the salon, and I took 2 weeks to give my 2 weeks notice because KG was my mentor. He taught me everything about hair. He taught me my work ethic. 3 years into working, I was having a really hard time, and I started crying in the back, and he comes back and he's like, what's wrong? What's going on? And I was like, I'm just not as good as you. I want to be KG. I want to be as good as KG, and I'm not, and my haircuts aren't as good as yours, and it sucks working with all these people who are so good, and they look so perfect, and I'm just not, and it's like, April, you're never going to be as good as me. And I was like, well, thanks a lot. That makes me feel super good. He's like, you're only going to be as good as April. And I'm 30 years ahead of you, and I'm a short Japanese guy. You're a tall American girl. Like, you're going to be different. You're going to attract a different kind of clientele. You're going to have a different style. You're going to be different. And the only thing you can be as good as is your last haircut. So every haircut that you do, you try to do the next one better. And so he taught me that lesson. He taught me always come 30 minutes early, always stay 30 minutes late, always open the door, always give that client that experience, always connect to people, never make it about the money. Like, he taught me so much about life. So the fact that I had to leave was really, really hard. And then he started crying. I gave him my 2 weeks, and he's like, don't leave, you can't leave. And it was so hard for me. But luckily, I had just gotten married a year before, and I totally manifested my husband, but that's a different seminar. It was awesome. I I mean, I was 30 and living in Utah, so, you know, that's like, I'm an old lady. Like, I'm way past my prime to get married at 30. So my husband really believed in me, and he sees me how I want to be as my higher self. And that's something that took me, like, he saw it way before I ever even saw it. So he's like, April, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. I know it's scary, but you're gonna do it. It's gonna be awesome. So I quit, and I didn't even have a place to work. I didn't know where I was gonna go, but I just knew I had to that was my plan B, and now I gotta move on to plan A. And if you just don't do it, you give yourself too much time, you talk yourself out of it. You're just like, oh, well, you find all these reasons why it won't work. So one thing that I have really used to get leverage on myself is I always ask myself, what's the worst thing that can happen with anything I do? What's the worst thing that can happen if I quit this salon and I move somewhere else? None of my clients will follow me. It's like, well, I've been doing hair 7-ish years. I'm pretty sure some of my clients will follow me. Actually, 80% of my clients followed me. So, and I moved to Draper, and that's like a different country for people living in Sugar House. So they were, you know, reminded me every time they came, I drove from Sugar House to Draper, April. That's how much I love you. And I was like, thank you. I'm sorry you had to drive 20 minutes on the freeway. That's terrible. Such a hard life you live. So I had to like link myself to so much pain though. Like if I stay at KG's, I'm already booked. I'm already charging as much as I can roughly be charging. And I'm 30. So does that mean I'm gonna be 6 years old, cutting hair, still working for KG, still doing the same thing? And am I okay with that? And I wasn't okay with that. That seemed really boring to me. I was like, no, I'm not okay with that. So what's the best thing that could happen? The best thing that could happen is it was a whole bunch of new unexpected things that I didn't even know. But I could have an amazing clientele that I built myself. I could do hair and makeup for weddings and travel all over the world. I can work on commercials. I can work on magazines. I can do hair in New York City. I can do all of this stuff. And I can keep all of the money because I'm not working for someone. So that seemed better than where I was at. And so I was willing to look into 5 years and say, this is what I could have, this is what I already have, and this is what I want and what I could have. This is so much better and so much more exciting. So it pulled me towards it instead of pushed me. So you always want to try to get yourself excited. When you get your clarity of what you want, you need to be emotionally excited about it. Because if we can't be excited about our own dreams, why would we want to achieve them? And when the hard work comes to hit it, like if your why is not strong enough, you will easily be like, no, I tried it, it didn't work. And we've all tried things that didn't work. We've all failed at stuff. We've all had successes with stuff. So the reason that we were successful, we have to think about that because success leaves clues. So why were we successful? What was it that got us there? So any time you have something big or a big change, kind of ask yourself, like, why do I want this so bad? Is this really worth it? And that, if you can make it compelling enough and you write down all your reasons and you read them every day to yourself, then you will get that dream. I do know for sure that visualization works. You know, The Secret came out and everyone's like, vision board, I'm gonna have a Mercedes or whatever, but you know, you can't, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong. I think too, women have a hard time talking about money, and they have a hard time wanting money because they feel selfish. There's nothing wrong with wanting money. Yes, money doesn't buy happiness, but it makes life easier, which then allows you to enjoy and give experiences. And if I have money, then I can donate it to sex trafficking, to Underground Railroad, which is something I'm really, really passionate about. And you can, you know, pay for your whole family's trip to Italy, who have never been before. Like, you can create experiences for your loved ones, and it just gives you more options and more opportunities. So there's nothing wrong with wanting money. I mean, it depends on, I guess, what you're willing to do for it. That's where it gets a little tricky, which I'm not getting into that either. So I did create a vision board, but it didn't, for some reason, we all are different learners. So a vision board was really like good for me to look at, but for me to write down my future life is what really worked for me. So I wrote where I want to be in 3 years. And if I had the perfect life, what would it look like? And if all my dreams came true, and if I could do anything I wanted to do, what would it be? And I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And every morning I write 3 pages. I do a morning practice. So every morning I do some deep breathing exercises because it like wakes you up. And I do meditation. Sometimes I'll do a guided meditation. Sometimes I'll do affirmations. But I'll just kind of quiet my brain because our subconscious is more susceptible, like first thing in the morning. So you really have to train your brain, because we are all born with this negative reptile brain that's 60,000 years old, that is supposed to keep us safe, but we don't have lions and tigers and bears out trying to kill us all the time, so it's always looking for things that are wrong, and it will always be that way. Our soul and spirit, on the other hand, can override our brain. So we have to train our brain. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. 98% of them are the same thoughts, and 98% of those are usually negative. I'm too stupid, I'm too fat, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too young, I'm too this. We always are finding and comparing ourselves of why we can't do those things. So instead, as soon as I even hear those thoughts now, I'm like, no, I'm not too tall. Damn it. I am the perfect height, 6 feet tall. I even found pants that are too long for me today, which I'm very excited about. It's the first time in 37 years that has ever happened, so I was very excited about that. But when I hear those, I change them. Like, when I think I can't do something, or I think something's too hard, I change it and say, you know what, if I actually really wanted to do that, if I really wanted to be resourceful, if I wanted to type some stuff into Google and ask the right question and do the work that's required, I'm sure that I could figure out an answer and find out how to do it. So instead of having excuses, I'm gonna have results. And I will train my brain to do that. And every day, I do that. And I write stuff on my mirror. So I got married, I have 2 stepsons that are 20 and 22. And they always know when I'm going on a diet. Because I'll put stuff on the fridge of like, your body deserves healthy food, or, and they're like, April, are you going on another diet? I'm like, yeah. You're really mean when you're hungry. And I'm like, oh my gosh, whatever, I'm gonna be healthy. So, like, luckily, since I have married my husband, he is super healthy and active, and that is something that I am learning to take control over in my life, which is the one thing that has always been kind of like in the background with me. But I really do, I use the affirmations, I use the notes, I talk to myself in third person. So, like, I could talk to myself and be like, did you know that public speaking, people are more afraid of being burned alive than public speaking? Like, that's not something probably I'm gonna like say to myself as I'm driving here, like, oh, I'm gonna public speak with all these women I don't even know. Or I could say, you know what, I have invested 10 years and $50,000 in seminars, and I'm going to share this information and hope that one person is affected by it. Like, you can just change all of those things in your brain, but it does take consistency. You can't just do it once and be like, okay, like, it's good. Why isn't it working? Why am I not getting my Mercedes? You have to daily build your brick, build your wall, and consistently you will look back over the lifespan of yours and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. And as humans, we always overestimate what we can do as women. We always overestimate what we can do in a year. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this and this and this and this and this. But we really underestimate what we can do in 3 years. So I always try to make my 3-year goals, because by the 1 year, I think I'm just starting to plant enough seeds, then I start to water them, and then I feel like they start to grow by that time. So I visualize, I do my daily practice, and then I get leverage on myself. So one thing that you can do that is really effective is just write down a list of all of the things why you think you shouldn't, why you think you can't. Even if it's like, let's say weight loss, like, oh, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to cook healthy meals. I have a low metabolism. I have a thyroid problem. I have this, I have this, I have this. So those are all the reasons why it won't work. And then all the reasons why it will work is because I can just walk 20 minutes a day. I can just drink water. I can go to a doctor. I can get a nutritionist. I can do videos at home. I can do yoga. I can do swimming. It's not hard on my joints. Like, you can find all of these reasons. And then why are the reasons why you want? What would your life change? And what happens if you don't? Like, if I don't do this, then I could get type 2 diabetes like 80% of my family. I could have hypertension. I can have a heart attack. I can have a stroke. I can have this. I can have low energy. I can do all this. You have to make it painful. Like, we kind of don't want to be uncomfortable in our lives. We really like to be comfortable. But sometimes you have to get honest with yourself and say, you know what, if I don't change this, this is going to happen, and I'm not okay with that. So I do that, and then I really add emotion to it, and I read my why all the time. So why do I want this? And I read it every day. Every day I do it. I don't know how many of you read Think and Grow Rich. More of you need to raise your hands. You all need to read that book. Almost every single seminar that I've ever gone to is based from the principles of Think and Grow Rich. And I've read it 10 times. It is the best book. It's a little dry to get through, but like the the systems in there that he has and the letters that he writes to himself and just making that firm decision, they have absolutely changed my life. So we need to get certainty, we need to get clarity, and we need to put in hard work. So we can't expect that any of this is going to magically happen with positive affirmations. We need to really do the work, we need to get down and dirty, and we need to keep trying things until they work. And then once they work, I would say one thing I would add to this that I didn't have in there is networking. So when I left that salon, I worked at this other salon for 2 years. And is that my time? Oh, okay. I'm like, oh, I'm done. Anyways, mic drop. So I already don't have it on. I would say that, so I moved to this other salon and it was not a good fit. But I was just so anxious, like I had to get my plan B out of the way, and I didn't actually do any research. I just kind of found the closest salon to my house and just was like, oh, I can own my own business. I can rent my own booth here. I'm going to do this. And I worked there, sadly, for 2 years. I shouldn't say sadly because everything happens for a reason. I worked there for 2 years, but every day that my clients came, they were like, I don't think you fit in here. And I don't think anyone would know. But the name of it was Fresh Hair Professionals. And it just seemed not my style. So I was almost even embarrassed to say where I worked. I was like, I work at Fresh Hair Professionals. I'm just like, oh, I just have my own thing. It's inside of that building on the in this address. And they're like, well, what's the name of it? And I was like, I don't want to tell you the name. So I knew that it was not like aligning with me and who I am. So this other salon opened up. So life happened for me. She ended up closing the salon. So during this time also, I was at the U getting my degree in psychology. So I had my finals. I was going out of town with my husband to Vegas, and then I got a note saying the salon is closing in 2 weeks, and you need to find a new place to work and transfer all of your clients. And I was very upset because I had paid my rent just barely 12 weeks in advance. And then she let me know that it was going to take her a few months to refund my money because she was closing because of financial difficulty. So I was like, well, could have given us a little bit more time because 2 weeks is kind of short notice to find and decorate and get all my business licensing transferred over. She's like, yeah, if I told you guys too soon, I knew that you would all leave and I wouldn't have enough money to pay the rent. I was like, that's terrible. So that's a lesson. Don't do that to people. So I just went to this place called Image Studios. And it's these beautiful, like independent salons. So there's like 30 mini studios and all of the women in there own their own business. So I just had such a good feeling. I was so excited. It was so beautiful. And I was like, yes, this is where I belong. And this is where I'm going to make my next step. And since I started there, I feel like my life, it was 7 years and then another 7 years. And then I feel like it fast-tracked. So within a year, I ended up buying the salon. And I had never wanted to own a salon before. Like, I still, honestly, can't even believe it. I don't even know how it happened. I was kind of the squeaky wheel. So whenever, like, the parking lot wasn't plowed and my client would slip, I would like email him and say, hey, your on-site manager sucks and we need to like plow this because my client just slipped and this is a lawsuit for you and a liability. So then the next day it was like plowed. And so I just kind of kept reaching out to him, and then he'd always have a business summit. And he spoke and he said, if any of you want to, have any coaching or anything, I would love to meet with any of you. So there's a room like twice as full because he owned 5 locations and all of his stylists were there. And I was the only one that actually called him. So Lisa Nichols says this thing, knock and it shall be opened, seek and you shall find. But you actually have to seek and you actually have to knock or it's never gonna be opened. And how many of us have all these opportunities, but we don't actually we like think about it and we're gonna do that and we're gonna make that phone call and we're gonna do that, but we don't actually do it. So I was scared. He was a very intimidating person. And I just was like, you know what? I need to get to know this Jason guy. Like, I feel it in my gut that I need to get to know him. So I reached out, I called him. He met me for 2 hours and went over how to raise my prices effectively. And he's like, women never raise their prices. Men always raise their prices. Women have such a hard time charging what they're worth. Why don't you deserve to raise your prices $5? Like, come on, give me a break. And he's like, I have to solve this problem in the industry. And I was like, well, you got to solve women's self-worth issues first, which is a very big, you need help with that. So, which we're all going to help each other do that, right? So I read this book called Never Eat Alone. And it talks about networking by building relationships, by building friendships, not by, hi, what do you do? Here's my card. I just went to the National Achievers Conference, and 5 people came up to me. And I really wanted to meet Tony Robbins, so I paid for the platinum diamond seat because I could get my picture taken with him. So life goal, dream came true on Friday. And so, of course, everyone thinks, oh, you're the diamond, you paid $2,000 for your ticket. You must be someone I need to get to know. So, people just come up to you, and before they even ask your name, they're like, what do you do? Hi, what do you do? Oh, I don't even care about your name. I own a makeup business. Oh, you have hair salons? Hold on. Here's my card. It's like, I didn't even ask, you didn't even know my name, you didn't ask anything about me. There's no personal connection, and you want me to do business with you. And that is such a turnoff. And I do travel internationally a lot, and no one ever asks me what I do. Only in America. We are so concerned with, are you worth my time? Are you even worth me talking to for 5 minutes? What do you do? Oh, yeah, oh, that's nice. Anyways. And then you move on to someone else who's more worth your time. I mean, we're all women. We're all here on this earth. We all feel pain. We all have, insecurities. Why can't we just connect as humans? And in this book, Never Eat Alone, he says, why don't you start asking people, what do they love? What are you passionate about? What's your favorite color? Why don't we find something personal about them before we just base them on what do they do? It also challenges you to meet one person a week new that's uncomfortable for you to meet. So Jason, I had just read that book, and that is the reason I met Jason. So meeting Jason has changed my entire life because I had this dream that I want to be a millionaire. Well, how am I going to be a millionaire when all my friends are in debt? And seriously, 4 of my friends, when 2008 happened, they short sold their home, but they lived in it for a year, not paying the rent, which I just could not be friends with them after that. I was like, that is so dishonest, and you are not responsible with your money, and you're not honest in those areas, so that means you're not going to be honest in other areas. So I had to make a whole new group of friends. And if I want to be part of my 5, then I'm going to pick my 5 very strategically. So I knew I wanted Jason in my 5. So I built this relationship with Jason, and then he started introducing me to all these other people. And then I started going to networking events. And I would just sit by whoever and just ask them personal. I would find out about their kids. I found out about their mom dying, about this. And that is the great thing as a hairstylist, is you can easily connect and build relationships that way. But I found it so refreshing that people you actually would take them to coffee and not talk about business. We actually just would talk about our lives and being women and the problems that we all feel as being business owners. And that has dramatically changed my life in 2 years. So now I own 3 locations of image studios. And I had no problem filling them. When I bought them, 2 of them were going under. So I bought the one, and then the other 2 were going under. So I knew that I had to buy the other 2 to save my one that I bought. And this is also how the world life happens for you. When Jason asked me if I wanted to buy them, I had zero, I had started an IRA, but this loan was $500,000. I'm like, no one's gonna give you a loan on a leased building. So where do I come up with $500,000? I don't even know. So I just kind of put it out there, if I'm meant to buy these salons, then the money is just gonna come to me. But because of my networking and my building relationships, I actually had 4 people offer to give me the money for the salons. My brother-in-law had called me a week after and said that he wanted to buy land in Hawaii, and he was going to invest in this apartment complex, and it was about $500,000. So I was like, how about you buy salons with me instead? Which he did, and now we have this awesome relationship. So I will my time is up, so I could talk all day about this, sorry. I would just say, find what you're passionate about. Get clarity, kind of know your why. And it's okay if it changes. You don't have to know okay, my life's purpose is this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this. But just be open to the possibility of every day asking yourself the right question. If we ask why we suck at stuff and why we can't get what we want, then that's not a very powerful question. But if we ask, why couldn't I do that? Or what would I love to do? That's a lot better question. So try to just get control of your thoughts, and I would, make a vision board, do whatever works for you, and hard work, ladies, and be patient. Gosh darn it, be patient. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Okay.
You're running away so quickly.
I know.
You really are 6 feet tall.
I am.
I like this.
I
I
know,
love
that's
your
right,
height.
yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much, April. So many good takeaways, and I wanted to share some of mine. Take the risks. Find a mentor. One day at a time. Show up early and stay late. And I'm a huge advocate for building relationships versus just networking. So I hope you all wrote that down and actually put that into practice. I thought that was fabulous. And we have just a few minutes before we do a raffle. Do you guys have any questions that you want to ask April? You've got her front and center. So I would love to open it up for just a few.
All of you at once.
I have
Okay.
Yeah, Tina.
How do you feel like you've best mentored the people that you work with in all your different salons to create the culture?
So that was a really difficult, there's a lot of personalities of hairstylists and massage therapists that want to own their own business. One thing that is just really coming at it from a place of love. And I tend to be, I'm an Aries and I'm a little fiery. So I had to do a lot of inner work to just be non-judgmental and non-emotional. And so I actually send love in advance before I have any kind of like a meeting or a confrontation. I just I breathe. I do this head-heart breathing. So I close my eyes and I breathe through my heart and I just connect the two. And then I just think of the person and I send them love. And so I did that. I hope you all felt my love this morning because I did that all while we were in there. I was just kind of like looking and sending love. So I do that, and that really helps me just see them as a person. Another really great book, 4 Agreements, The 4 Agreements. Best book ever. It's really not about me and what's my outcome. So I always ask myself, what's my outcome? Like if I want to be selfish and it's all about me, my outcome is going to not be very good. And when I own this type of business, it has to be to help empower the women and help them have the tools. So my outcome is to help them be empowered. And as long as I have that outcome before I go, I feel like things always work out good. Thank you. Yeah.
So you said earlier that you were more of a tomboyish when you were younger. How did you find this completely different route?
I don't even know, honestly. I just kept taking the steps and it just kept leading me towards hair. Because I did have this choice where I was gonna go get my master's degree and do counseling for women, or I could grow my hair industry. And so then I thought, I'll just be a hair therapist and I'll actually make more money. So then when you kind of get around the industry, and I think the more that I felt that I wanted to be seen, I think I realize now that I just really didn't want to be seen. The more that I'm okay with, I'm freaking 6 foot tall, with red, I usually have bright, fiery red hair. Like, you're just going to be seen. So the more comfortable that I got with myself, the more I was okay with being seen. And then that was okay to be feminine. And you kind of have masculine energy sometimes when you're dealing with men and in business. You tend to get the masculine energy. And we all have masculine and feminine. And I think I just had to learn to balance the two together in alignment.
One more question, Amber.
Just really quick, because it sounds like you've achieved a certain level of success. What did you do to keep looking forward, and not just say, oh, this is great, this is awesome. What do you do to keep the vision fresh and keep you going? And what is that?
That's a great question. So I kind of have this really great relationship with fear. And when I start to ask myself questions, I kind of always know what my higher purpose is, but then I get scared of it. And now I'm to the point where I'm starting to think as fear as excitement. So when I get excited about something or fearful, that means I know it's worth it and that I need to take the risk. So right now I am actually transitioning. I've done hair for 15 years, and I'm transitioning out of hair. I just started a blow dry bar, and now I'm mentoring young girls. And that, as long as I always have connection with people, I kind of always just it seems to just line up. Honestly, I just kind of trust the flow of the process. And so now I am slowly not taking more clients, and it's scary. It doesn't magically just be like, it's okay. Like, this is my cute apprentice here, and she's always like, April, you can't take any more new clients. You're never gonna be able to do this. I'm like, I know. So you just have to have a big enough why. So now my big enough why is I don't wanna trade my time for money anymore, and I can have a bigger impact instead of one person at a time in the chair, I can have a bigger impact with more people. So I'm slowly just letting the process happen that way. But As long as I have the excitement, then it seems to work out. Okay. Awesome.
Okay, well, we have a small gift for you here from
Aw,
the Women in
thank
Business
you.
Committee.
You spelled my
and
name
Women in
right. Thank you.
I'll take credit for that. You're welcome. I didn't do that. Okay, one last thing before we do the raffle. I want to give the room next door a little bit of competition with our applause for April. So let's show her some love.
I can yell as well, too. Yay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you. Appreciate it.